sports. And the first sport I want to talk about tonight is actually the free agency frenzy going on in the NBA right now. Because, like I said last week, everything was kind of clogged up. The tubes were not flowing properly in the free agent market because you had the big names. You had LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony as the biggest culprits. And then you had the little lesser ones like Chris Bosh and the ilk of players of that ilk. Not really making any decision because everybody was waiting to see where LeBron's going to go. All the teams were waiting to see where LeBron and Melo were going to go because if they were potentially going to attract them to their team, they were going to give them enormous amounts of money and take themselves out of the free agent market. But Cleveland actually was lucky, landed LeBron James, and no surprise here, Carmelo Anthony decided to stay with the big bucks and stayed in New York. So those two players are off the market. Let's get into some of the best players that signed after that. We'll start it off with Luol Deng. Really good shooting, small forward, formerly of the Cleveland Cavaliers last year and the Chicago Bulls. Really made his name with the Chicago Bulls. Very good defender, very serviceable shooter. He can probably score about 18, 19 points a game will be his average. That's about his limit, but he'll get you a good 3 steals. Well, maybe not 3 steals a game, but maybe 1.5 average, and some good rebounds. So a solid player.
18, 19's not too shabby.
No, that'll put you up in the top 30 highest scoring players. So that's a pretty good one. Now he landed with the Heat to complement Dwayne Wade. And Chris Bosh actually re-signed with the Heat too, taking all the money and deciding, you know what, it's Miami. Why do I need to go anywhere?
So wait, did he just go from Cleveland to the Heat?
Kinda. I mean, he was kind of traded.
LeBron James there.
They kind of tagged each other on their way past. They're like, hey man, I want to go where it's warmer. Hey man, I want to go where it's cold, and there's nothing else to do. Can you guess which one I'm talking about for which city? Yeah, so they kind of did high five on the way through. So Luol Deng landed there as LeBron James's replacement. Now, of course, you can't really replace LeBron James. It just doesn't happen. But if you had to have a replacement come in, they picked a pretty good one with Luol Deng. Now, I'm sure they would have preferred Carmelo Anthony or something, but again, not going to happen. So I think he did a pretty good job there. Another kind of surprise, I didn't really see this coming, was Paul Gasol landed with Chicago. Now, this really takes Chicago as already a perennial contender. Well, that's assuming Derrick Rose will be healthy. I think right now that they'd be considered the strongest team in the East with the addition of Paul Gasol. Now, this all hinges on Derrick Rose staying healthy. And I don't think that's might have happened 2 of his 6 years in the league so far. So, and as a Washington Wizards fan, I'm totally cool with you being hurt, Derrick Rose. Now I want you to play well. He's actually going to be playing for the American World Cup basketball team, so I want him to play well. I want him to be healthy. But after that, I want you just to fall off.
American World Cup basketball team.
Yeah, we're going to win. That's what we're going to do. They have World Cups and everything. World Cup of Rugby, World Cup of Basketball.
They need to get some better names, okay? They need to switch them up.
Be a little more original, like the World Championship Series. Actually, I think that's already taken by the NBA Finals. They call that the World Championship, so I don't know.
Yeah, there are World Championship stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah, it's already the Olympics. I mean, basketball's already in the Olympics, so what difference does all this make anymore? What?
Not really any. But yeah, so then you have Chandler Parsons, who I thought this was kind of a surprise. I thought he fit in very well in Houston. He decided to uproot himself, move himself across the state, and he signed with the Dallas Mavericks. And so to replace him, the Houston Rockets then signed Trevor Ariza, which I didn't quite understand this move by Trevor Ariza. He was offered a 4-year, $32 million deal by the Washington Wizards, which is a team he fit in great. He had his best year of his career with the Wizards, and he's been in the league for almost 8, 9, probably 10 years. And why you would want to leave a system that seemed to be doing so well for you and go to another system that, you never know, kind of didn't make any sense because he signed for the exact same contract, 4-year, $32 million that the Wizards offered him. But Houston, apparently in Texas you don't have an income tax, so you get to keep all your money.
Well, I guess that is something. That's probably pretty significant for him.
Yeah. So
I mean, I know, Brian, you're hurting now because you were counting on him coming back.
Yeah, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Unless you think that it frees up some room for someone else.
We'll get into that a little bit later. It's interesting. So moving down the list of free agents, DJ Augustine, very good scorer, signed with Detroit. Vince Carter, yeah, he's still in the league. I think he might have been in the league. I think he was drafted in '97, so he's a dinosaur in basketball years. He decided to move from Dallas to Memphis, which I think he'll fit in pretty well there. Then you have Kyle Lowry deciding to stay in Toronto. Thabo Cephalosha, probably one of the second or third tier free agents, but he's another small forward that really got backed up in that logjam of Carmelo and LeBron. He decided to go to Atlanta. And Lance Stevenson, Mr. I'll blow in LeBron's ear, decided to uproot himself from the number 1 seed in the East, the Pacers, and go to Charlotte. And when you see this face, it's not because I don't remember where he went. It's just because, like, I'm baffled, and it almost gives me a headache to think, yeah, they made the playoffs last year, but they might make it this year, but, they're not a good team. Why would you want to leave one of the better teams in the league where they were going to give you more money, more years, to take less years and less money for a bad team?
And less chances to blow in LeBron James's ear.
Oh, he'll probably still have the same amount of chances, actually, to do that, because they're still in the same conference. I think they're in the same division now.
Maybe they'll have more chance. Maybe that's the whole thing. He wants to blow LeBron James's ear some more.
He was going to miss that ear blow. So, yeah. Yeah, I think a little bit had to do with Michael Jordan owning the Charlotte Bobcats, or Hornets now they're going to be called. They dropped the Bobcats
Michael
moniker.
Jordan owns them now?
Yeah, he's
because he used to own the Wizards. For a while, he owned the Wizards.
Then he was a minority stake, and he was team president. And then they said, hey, Mike, why don't you come and play for us? We still think you have enough in you. Don't worry, your spot will be here when you're ready to retire from the Wizards. He played 2 great years. I loved seeing him in a Wizards uniform. And then was like, okay, guys, I'm ready to take back over where I left off. And they said, get out of town. Leave and never return.
That's like the worst trick ever.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, why don't you make our team good for a little while to boost its value, and then go away. Just go away.
And then leave now and never come back.
We took your shares and your success.
I could see Abe pulling like Mr. Burns, sitting there, just being the maniacal person. Actually, Abe Pullen was a great guy, so I'm not going to hate on it. But yeah, so that brings us.
He might like Charlotte, North Carolina. He's from he played college in North Carolina anyway. I think he might be from North Carolina, right? So maybe he'd like that anyway. So,
but so that brings us to the last free agent of the big free agents on my list, and that is Paul Pierce. Now I mentioned I wasn't too disappointed with Trevor Ariza leaving, and that is because the Wizards got a steal, probably the steal so far of the free agency. Okay, maybe not, because LeBron James is the steal. No matter how much you pay him, if you could get him away from Miami, he's the steal of the free agents. But Paul Pierce, not a big drop-off in points scored. He's going to roughly average about the same amount of points Trevor Ariza averaged. Defense, you do have a drop-off. Now, it is a good thing because you have a young player like Otto Porter being able to step off the bench, get more playing time that he wouldn't have gotten if Trevor Ariza had stayed. But the best thing about it was they signed him to a 2-year, $10 million contract. So he's going to get about $5.3 million a year. And absolute, just the perfect thing about doing this. Literally, I didn't think Ernie Grunfeld had it in him. The genius move is that in 2016, when a lot of money is going to come off the books, guess who's going to be a free agent? Kevin Durant! Yes, that is right. So I'm hoping that they're going to try to lure him back home because he is from the D.C. area, similar to what Cleveland did with LeBron. And
until then, Brian's just buying his time. Just the next 2 years of basketball is all about just waiting for Kevin Durant. Waiting for Kevin Durant.
That's true. I did read a Stephen A. Smith article about how Kevin Durant said if he was going to ever leave Oklahoma City, the only other place he'd go is Washington. So kind of what my pants.
That's a pretty good sign.
Yeah, and Stephen A. Smith 2 years ago kind of predicted that LeBron was going to jump ship and go back home to Cleveland. So I'm going to go with Stephen A. Smith. and say, Kevin Durant, come on back. And so this is going to start our marathon of Kevin Durant's rants every week, even if he does nothing from now until he comes. And then after he comes, it's going to be double that. I don't know if you guys like Kevin Durant as much as I do. And I don't know how I'm going to double up on Kevin Durant rants. But I will. I will do it. The Durant rant will live. Let's start it off with the first one. Durant is just an amazing player. He's a handsome gentleman. He gets all the ladies. He is the best football recruiter ever. He recruited Deshaun Jackson to the Redskins. He's a humanitarian. When there was a big tornado ripped through Oklahoma, he donated $1 million right after that. He's probably one of the best public speakers of all the NBA players. You should see his MVP acceptance speech. It just brought a tear to my eye. I mean, probably the best public speaking I've ever seen out of an NBA player. He's humble. And did I mention he's the best scorer in the game right now?
And he can be extra humble because Brian's just going to do all the bragging for him. So it's all right.
KD, if you want, I will do it for free for you. I will be your publicist, and anything that comes out, I'll just be like, Kevin Durant's the best. What do you want?
That he doesn't have to. Well, he doesn't need you as a publicist for that because you're just going to do it anyway.
True. But it'd be nice to be acknowledged. I will not be ignored. No, I'm not. I'm joking. I will not be a crazy fatal attraction.
You say?
I won't. I promise, KD. If you ever move to the area, I will not stalk you. I will not find out where you live and park outside your house for hours at a time, just hoping to get a glimpse of you.
Unless you really want him to.
I mean, if you really want me to, I'll do it. I mean, I'm not saying I won't do it. I will do it, KD. If that's what you want, man, that's what you get. So, come on home, KD. So let's talk a little bit about, though, some of the best free agents still available. Now, it's kind of a weak market still out there, but I'll just talk about some of the best ones out there. Ray Allen, he's still available. He's probably teetering on the edge of whether he should retire or come back, but the guy can still shoot threes, so any team that's really in need of a three-point shooter should go ahead and get Ray Allen services. And then Greg Monroe is the other top-tier free agent still out there. This guy's a really good finesse big man. I wouldn't really say he's a big bruiser. He can body somebody, but he's more of a finesse player, really good around the blocks, his back to the basket. He's got a really good offensive game that way, and he can step out and take a 10, 15-foot jumper anytime. So those are the two best free agents. And so let's jump into the winners and losers so far of the NBA free agency. And I'm going to start with the should we start with the losers or the winners?
I say we start with the losers.
All right, losers, here you come. So loser from the East will be the Heat, because doesn't matter what happens, if you lose LeBron James in free agency, you are a big loser. You just lost about 20 wins off of your record. Sorry.
I don't know. LeBron James kind of overrated. Definitely overrated.
I've never.
He could take Michael Jordan.
I don't think he's a better overall player than Michael Jordan is. But maybe one-on-one, you never know. You never know. He is a little bit taller than Michael was, but Michael was a little bit more savvy than LeBron is, so you never know. It could go either way. I would still, if I had to bet, if you put a gun to the head, said bet on who's going to win, I would bet on Michael Jordan, of course. But you never know.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, you never know what's going to happen with the Heat either. Although they were, their big claim to fame and success was buying good players, and they bought the best players they could find, and now they lost the best player they could find, and they haven't exactly bought up enough to replace him yet. So
and they're not going to have time, so sorry, Heat. And then the big loser for the Western Conference was, there's a couple big losers because there's a couple teams that I thought should be doing something that just didn't do anything, but I would have to say is the Mavs. Not because they've made that many bad moves. I just think they overpaid for Chandler Parsons, like $20 million over what he should have gotten. They gave him a 4-year, $47 million, or a 3-year, $47 million deal, I believe. The guy should have gotten a $3 million, $27 million deal. So, what can you do? That makes you a loser. Let's go ahead and womp both of them.
All right, we can give him a womp. Could we?
I don't know. Can we?
Yeah, we can.
I like that face. That's his womp face right there. So let's move it on to the biggest winners of free agency so far. And I'm going to give the biggest winner in the Eastern Conference to, can you guess it? If the biggest loser is whoever... Actually, they're up there. They would be my second tier winner. But if you could guess who the biggest loser is because they lost LeBron, yeah, it's Cleveland. Because if you get LeBron James, I mean, you just win. That's just... And then the biggest winner from the Western Conference will be the San Antonio Spurs, because I believe they had about 4 or 5 free agents from that championship team, and they went ahead and re-signed them all. So they're returning the exact same championship roster from this year to next year. So I call that a W.
That's an interesting one. It's a win not because of gain, but because of maintaining. Because you already had the best.
Exactly. You're already at the top of the mountain. I mean, you can't get any higher than that. So, as long as you can stay up there, you're playing King of the Mountain, you're kicking all the other little kids down the hill. You broke 1 or 2 of them's nose. That wasn't very nice of you, San Antonio, but, you maintain your King of the Mountain. I see what you're doing there. Do what you do. And the other thing about that is they sign these guys for pretty small contracts. I mean, they didn't overpay for anybody. I think they kind of, actually, they kind of underpaid, like, Tim Duncan. They could have given him a lot more, but you know what? Keep the flexibility going. Can't complain there.
So they probably had that negotiation point of, hey, we got you. The system got you a championship, so
and it's worked for the past 17 years. Why don't you just stay? And he's like, oh, good point. Yeah. I've won 5 championships.
Championships are nice,
I like being the best in the league. Yeah. So tell us what you think about what happened in NBA free agency. Were there any free agents I missed that you think I should have talked more about? Do you give us some of your biggest winners / losers? Let us know in comments down below. Of course, at WordsForMyFace on Twitter, wordsformyface@gmail.com, Google+, and Facebook. Those things. So let us know what you guys think about the NBA free agency. But let's go ahead.